Hi, everybody. Welcome to day 6 of the virtual San Diego Latino Film Festival. Still have to get used to that. And our Q&A for our Docu Shorts program. I hope you guys enjoy the show. We had a great variety. I think in the intro I mentioned how diverse all of the stories are. And I think we're going to have a great time talking to some of the filmmakers that made these films. So I'm gonna bring them on just one by one, so we'll go in the order that they appear for me.
Oh. It's like frozen for me.
There we go.
Oh, hi.
I think my internet went out for a second, or was it you guys? Was it everybody? It's just me. Diego Serrano of Supai. Eleni Abandaño of School Crossing. Mario Gonzalo Jimenez of Lázaro. Joel Munoz of Follow the Sun. Ebony Bailey of Jamaica and Tamarindo, Afro tradition in the heart of Mexico. And Eduardo Noblecilla of Dubai. Hi, how's everybody doing? Good. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you go ahead and tell us where everybody's from? We'll start with you, Carla, and just go down the line.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
Why don't you guys tell us where you're coming from? Where you're connecting from? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Carla. I'm connecting right now from Miami, Florida.
Okay. I'm Diego. I'm talking from Lima, Peru.
Hi, I am Eduardo. I am from Lima, Peru too.
Okay, awesome. How about you, Joe Bill?
I'm Joel Munoz, and I'm in Oakland, California.
How about you, Mario?
Hi, I'm Mario Gonzalez Jimenez, and I'm speaking to you from León, Mexico.
Oh, okay.
And I'm Eleni, here in Honolulu, Hawaii.
Awesome. Looks like we're all spread out. You're from? You say you're from León, Mario?
That's right.
My family is from San Francisco de Rincón, San Pancho.
Oh, really? That's a nice coincidence.
15 minutes away. Yeah, that's awesome. Anyways, we'll go on to the Q&A now that we know where everybody's from. Well, thank you so much for joining us again. First of all, I'm always interested in how films come to fruition so I want to ask all of you how does I think Ebony's back. Hi, Ebony. Sorry, I couldn't see. I had to scroll down. How are you doing? Why don't you tell us where you're calling from?
Good, how are you?
Pretty good, thank you.
I'm calling from Mexico City.
Mexico City, awesome.
And I'm from California.
You're from California, okay. Cool. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about how the genesis of you guys' film. How did you come to this subject? Was it approached to you? Did you find it? Was it something that interested you and you went ahead and as you learned more about it, you were like, wow, I need to make a film of this and highlight this. Let's start with you, Carla, and then Eleni. Let's start with you, Carla, and Eleni, and then we'll go with Eduardo and and Diego, since they're together too, and then we'll go on from there.
Yeah, so our film in particular was part of our thesis project for our master's at UC Berkeley. And I guess we sort of started with the idea of covering Venezuela in general. My family's from Venezuela, and I had wanted to do something on the refugee crisis, but we wanted to find something that hadn't been covered too much. So we just started reading a lot, articles and news articles, and our original story was going to be about the migrants that were walking across the border, just like by foot with everything on them, like all their possessions. But, you know, we realized that had been covered a lot. And like while looking into this border, we found the story of children that were also crossing, but going back every day. And so we sort of started looking into that. And that's how that, storyline came about.
Okay.
Yeah, and the only thing I would add is it was just really compelling to see how Colombia was opening its schools and making adjustments to, certain immigration policies to allow Venezuelan students to enroll in their schools. And it was a wonderful opportunity for us to actually be able to go to Colombia and spend some time in those schools and really see how the Venezuelan students were doing.
Awesome. Yeah, I think being in a border city, I think that's something that a lot of San Diegans can relate to, because we have a lot of students from Tijuana come to school here in the U.S. and a lot of the times maybe there's no permission. There's this kind of an address is lended out so that kids can get an American education. So I think your film, even though it's so far away, really resonates. Can really resonate in our area. Go ahead, Diego and Eduardo.
Well, Supai, at the beginning, we didn't really know much about scissor dancers. It really came to us because we were very fascinated by them, but we didn't know a lot about them. And we are from Lima, me and Eduardo, and scissor dancing is most popular in the Andes of Peru. So me and Eduardo always wanted to explore more of them, and we met with Rupak, who is in our documentary, who is the protagonist, and he took us on a journey to one of the popular festivities that take place in the Andes, where scissor dancing is huge. And through our journey, we discovered a lot of things about them, about scissor dancing, and about all the mysticism that is behind this tradition and their connection with nature. And we also learned that there's a myth in Peru that scissor dancers are associated with sorcery, and they have this pact with the devil, because they do a lot of crazy things in their dancing. They stick knives, and they jump from buildings during their tradition. So it was like an exploration for us in this documentary. So we were always interested in developing and knowing about different characters.
Yeah.
So yeah.
My English is the worst, I think, but I try. Okay.
You can do it in Spanish if you're more comfortable.
No, it's okay. I can practice.
Okay.
I think with Diego we start to doing movies because in Peru the regional cinema is not so popular. We are from Lima, the capital, so there are a lot of well-known characters in Lima, like the scissor dancer, but they are just we don't know really where they from. So we need to investigate to get in that topic. They're very related with the nature. They gain their power to do their acrobatics from the nature. So Diego and me get excited with that. So we start to investigate a lot and get involved on all the mysticism of them.
We learned we learned about them as we were doing the documentary, and as we were doing, we wanted to learn more, and it became this journey of learning for us from them, and it was amazing.
Sure.
So, thank you. How about you, Joe Bill?
Hi. I also did my film as my thesis project with Carla and Eleni. So we the three of us know each other pretty well. And did not expect to see them on this call, but hi, and I'm glad I did see them.
So that's the second time it happens this week. Good short film programs. On our Mundo Extraño, I guess there was two filmmakers that they didn't know that they had films, and they hang out and everything. They know each other pretty well, and all of a sudden they were like, What are you guys? What are you doing here?" That's awesome, though. It's nice to see that the even though it's a big world, like the community is like tight knit, you know. Sorry to interrupt you.
No, not at all. I'm happy that you interrupted. To go back to the question, I conceived of the film. I think it was summer 2018. I was doing an internship at a news agency, the Associated Press, in Mexico City, and I was living there. And basically, I had an assignment to go to a migrant shelter and talk to the people there and try to come up with a story. That didn't end up happening. I didn't find the story that I was looking for that particular thing. But when I went to this migrant shelter for Central Americans in Mexico City, Casa Tochan, I was like, just walking in that place for the first time, meeting all the people, the woman who was in charge of it, the director of the shelter, and just hearing all the stories and everything. The whole experience, I was just like, somebody needs to make a film about this place. Like, this place is crazy. This place is special. There's a lot happening. You could just like stand in the corner with the camera and just record, and that's all you'd have to do, and you would already have something, because this place is just kind of filled with incredible stories. And so when I went back to school, I kind of like had that in mind, and I was thinking of a project, and that was the one that I wanted to try to pull off. So yeah, that was kind of it. I think you're muted, Juan.
Sorry. How about you, Mario? Sorry. Thank you. Thank you for answering, Joel.
Well, for our film Lazaro, I really wanted to make a film about drug addiction, because the last short film I made, which also participated in the San Diego Latino Film Festival last year, it's called Bastardos Desterrados. In English, it's Nowhere Bastards. Well, we talked to a lot of young people who spoke us about this problem that is happening in the inner cities in Mexico, and it was something that I sort of didn't see, because I was living in such a protected environment, a private school and nice places, and everything is like a Fisher Price world, and I was missing out on some of the social problems that are going on in my own city. So that I was pretty surprised by that, or very impressed by that. I'm negatively impressed, and I decided I want to make a film about that. And it turns out this was actually my thesis project as well. And one of my friends with whom I made the film, Juan Pablo Farias, who is the assistant director, he was interned in the rehab clinic that we shot at. He had just come out of rehab, and he was coming back to school. So we sort of got together again, and he actually gained access to the rehab clinic. They let us shoot there because they knew him, and he was friends with everyone there. And that's where we met Jonathan, the main character. At first, I was kind of reluctant as if he was the right person, because I thought his story was just maybe not representative of the whole problem, because he was so young. I mean, we met him when he was 14. He turned 15 while we were shooting, and but then I realized that we really need to listen to the younger kids who are going through this, because a lot of underage people are going through it, and it's something that is really hurting our communities in Mexico. And I think it's a really important subject, and I'm glad we got to shoot there. I'm really glad we found these people.
You're muted again, Juan.
Sorry, I keep doing that. I don't want to echo when I don't want you guys to hear my echo when you guys are talking. But I think Ebony dropped off. She'll probably come back right now. I think she's going in and out. But so I think one of the things that when making films is pre-production is such a big thing. And in narrative films, it's basically usually preparing for your shots, equipment, etc. Draft outlines and stuff like that. But I think in documentary films, pre-production is a lot of dealing with or connecting and getting your subjects comfortable on film. Sorry, it's right here. So why don't you guys talk to us a little bit about what that process was like? But first, we're gonna come back to Ebony and see if she could tell us what the origin of her film was. Can you hear me, Ebony? I think she might have froze. Can you hear me okay, Ebony? Okay, we'll come back to her. In the meantime, why don't you, we'll start again with, Mario now. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that? What the pre-production, what the process was. You say you started, you met Jonah when he was 14 and started shooting when he was 15. So I'm guessing you spent a lot of time getting him comfortable in the camera and kind of trying to get him comfortable with you too, right?
A little bit. One of the things that was necessary for this film was I needed to get really familiar with rehab processes and NA meetings or AA meetings, which are very similar. So one of the people who helped me investigate told me that I should start going to AA meetings with him, because he was leader of a group. At first I was really scared. I was like, I shouldn't go there. I thought it wasn't even ethical. I thought I was intruding, right? So, but I followed his advice. I went to his group, and I started going to these meetings, even though I wasn't an addict or an alcoholic, because I needed to listen to the stories. I needed to look at and to observe the community that is formed within one of these groups, and to really get to know the experience and the process that people go through, right? So by the time we got to the clinic, all of everyone in the crew started attending to the meetings that were going on at the clinic, and eventually we had to participate in the meetings, even though we weren't going through the same thing. We sort of gave something to them, because I thought I once heard that documentary filmmakers are like vampires who suck the blood out of their subjects, and we didn't want to be like vampires. We wanted to give and to take at the same time, and that's how Jonathan was there. So slowly he started gaining some trust with us, and the thing is, addicts are they are used to sharing their story, because they do it every time at the meetings. It's part of the process, sharing your story so can help other people, and doing service to others is part of the recovery process. So it was pretty natural and easy for him to tell his story. Plus, he's not always on camera. When he's telling his story, we look at everyone else who's in the clinic. The idea is that this voice that is coming from wherever, it's a voiceover, might be any of them. That was the point. He's only in a few shots, actually. So at least that part of the being on camera he wasn't shy at all, and we didn't push him too much. So that went well. You're muted once again.
Thank you. How about you, Diego and Eduardo? I think now you're muted, Diego. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Well, we're talking about the pre-production process. We was kind of difficult because this whole short documentary was self-financed by me and Eduardo. It's our first short documentary, and you know, we had a very small crew for our trip to the Andes. It was just me and Eduardo, and in Lima we shot with a few help from another people, but mostly all the work was me and Eduardo. We flew drone, we did sound, we light and camera. Yeah, most and well, yeah. We before we went on the trip to Ocochirura, which is the main town where we shot the documentary. We had a kind of like a shot list, but really it was more our idea was more observational, but we knew kind of what kind of takes we wanted to get from that trip. It was very important to get those kind of shots, you know.
We don't have a script first, but we have like a shooting, so we know how to shoot when we get there, and that's all. I think there's like a schedule for the festivity, and the scissor dancers, they are like very busy people, and coordinate all of that was very difficult. They don't know us, so first we have to know them and start like connect with the people. We were very lucky. That's the truth.
Yeah. We're very lucky because when we got to the town, the people received us with a lot of warmth. We were very open to our interviews, and we got a lot of valuable information from the dancers and the people who follow this tradition. You know?
Thank you. How about you, Carla and Eleni?
Yeah, I mean, our pre-production was a little difficult because we were in Berkeley and we were trying to report on something in Colombia, which was very far, and we didn't really have a chance to like talk to any of our characters beforehand. So it was really just like a lot of research, like anticipating what our story was going to be, and then we had a 10-day window to sort of get on the ground, find our characters, and film everything. So it was just kind of like a mad scramble. So we just tried to do everything that we could to prepare in terms of research and making sure that we knew what we were talking about before. And actually a few days before our trip, our original plan was to cross the border with the students on the buses that they were taking, and they actually closed the border. I think that was 2 or 3 weeks before 2 weeks before we traveled down there. So that was like a big wrench in our plan, and we had to sort of like plan everything. And we were really lucky too, because we were working with a journalist on the ground who helped us a lot when we got there and was able to guide us, and he helped us get into the schools and things like that.
Yeah, it was actually surprisingly easy to get permission to film in the schools. We thought, here in the US, it's always really difficult to get access, but they were really on board. And like Carla said, we had the amazing help of a local journalist who was an incredible guide, and he was definitely he played a big role in helping us be in the right schools and the right sort of environments to be able to tell the story well. And but other than that, it was very lucky in terms of the folks who we did meet after we arrived. We didn't make contact with many of the folks we interviewed before arriving.
Wow, that's incredible. You guys just kind of went with a plan, but without the people, right? That's crazy.
Yeah,
I'm glad it worked out, and it was a great work. But let's go with Joe Bell. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, the my whole pre-production process was also difficult. I don't think not as difficult, but you know, the shelter. You know, I wanted the shelter. You know, a lot of the migrants who go through it will only spend, you know, some just a night, some just a few nights, some longer. But it's kind of, you know, this free flowing place where people just come and go, come and go. You know, people are leaving, you know, Central America, going to the U.S. And so this Mexico City, you know, this in between point. And so there's this constant flow of people. And obviously in the film, I wanted some of the people in the film to be migrants themselves, but there was no way to know who was going to be there whenever I showed up with the camera, right? And so what I did to like work around that was, first off, I was like, Gabby, the shelter director, you know, she runs the place. I was like, you know, she's definitely an important person who's going to be in this film, and like at the very least, this is going to be someone who can anchor the film and the story. But also, I decided that I was going to live there during the entirety of filming for a lot of reasons. One, so I could get to know who the men were quickly, and also two, so they could get to know me, and we could just build that rapport. So whenever I brought the camera out, and you know they were going to leave in a couple of days, it was like I'd already established a relation with them, and I could interview them and film with them and do all those things. So that was kind of my, you know, it was just like, I'm going to go live at the shelter for a month, and I'm going to make sure I bring extra batteries and everything that I need. And there's something else I was going to bring up. And I think that was it. Yeah. So it was a bit difficult, but I think we managed to pull it off.
I was gonna ask, I might have missed it a little earlier, but did you shoot it while you were interning, or did you go back afterwards?
I went back.
You went back. Okay.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Is Ebony? Can you hear us? Did you having some internet problems? Cool. Well, Ebony's film is about Jamaica and Tamarindo. For those of you guys who haven't seen it, she can explain it way better than I can. But basically, Jamaica and Tamarindo is a big staple in Mexican foods, but it's actually it has African roots. They're basically plants that come from Africa, and basically her film is about African roots in Mexico. So, but maybe she comes back and she can talk to us a little bit more behind the origin of that. But in the meantime, are all of you guys primarily documentary filmmakers, or do you guys do narrative filmmaking also? We'll start with Carla and Eleni.
Yeah, I've only worked like in documentary or journalism type pieces before.
I'm a writer as well. I work for an investigative online newspaper in Hawaii currently, but still very much involved and want to do more video work, hopefully, here in the islands.
Awesome. What about you, Joe Bill?
Yeah, documentary.
Documentary. And Diego and Eduardo?
Yeah, we do documentaries, and also from time to time we do publicity. We do ads, commercials, but mostly documentaries, and further along we would like to do more fiction. Yeah.
More fiction. Okay, cool. How about you, Mario?
I have worked in some fiction projects, but never as a director. The first time I ever directed like a real project, it was a documentary, and after that, I just fell in love with it. And I think I don't really see myself doing fiction. I'd like to, but I don't have practice. And every time I have an idea, it's an idea for a documentary. So I think I'm gonna end up doing documentaries for the rest of the time. I
Yeah,
hope so.
sometimes human beings are the most interesting characters you can find, right? Another person, another subject's sometimes a lot more interesting than anything than we can think of. But I guess here at San Diego Latino Film Festival, where our parent organization is Media Arts Center San Diego, and we also do filmmaking programs for kids and teenagers. So we have a lot of up and coming or people who are learning filmmaking, and one of our focuses is documentary filmmaking. Is there any tips that you would recommend to anybody that will be watching on documentary? Anything you learned along the way, that maybe you wish you would have known, or someone would have told you to make it easier nowadays? We'll start with Diego and Eduardo.
I'm not sure how to answer this. Eduardo, you have something?
I don't know, bro. Just do it. Just do it. For me, that's the thing. Okay. Filmmakers don't have money. We do a lot of things like advertising and things that we don't like. And you have a lot of friends, but less money. You will do a good movie. You know, I think all start with nothing, and we don't. You never have all the resources to start your film. You know, and that's it.
Yeah, we've shot a lot of things with zero budget just because we wanted to have more experience shooting. So the thing is that maybe we didn't know that when we were going to film school. Maybe we thought that maybe someone will see our talent and give us money to do our movie, but that's not the way it works. You have to shoot and you have to go outside and pick a story, pick someone that you find interesting, and do a documentary on it, or do a film. You have to just go out and do.
Sure.
Thank you.
That's the way.
That's the way. What about you, Mario?
Well, like they just said, the resources are so accessible right now. We live in a democratic world now when it comes to the media, and I think, I mean, documentaries are not so. The people who watch documentaries are not expecting beautiful photography shot by Roger Deakins. You can shoot with a consumer level camera and a $20 lav mic, and you can do great things with that. So there's no excuse anymore. You just have to do it. And I'd also say that if you want to do a really good documentary, I think you need to get involved. So some people ask, like, should you get emotionally detached from the things that you're shooting and from your subjects? I think you should not. I think that's the complete opposite. You need to really care about the subject you're doing, with the people and the thematic elements. You need to be really involved. Otherwise, the outside look is not going to work. I think the closer you are to your subjects, the better the film. Even though it may be emotionally draining sometimes, that's part of the beauty of this, I believe.
Thank you. How about you, Joe Bill?
Yeah, echo the same things that everyone else said. Just do it. Just make it happen. I think that, there's just like, get reps. Just get as much reps as possible. Practice. Be okay with failing at things, and just testing, and believe in testing and experimenting and working on stuff, and just get the reps.
Thank you. How about you, Carla and Eleni?
Yeah, I mean, everything that everybody said, and then I guess something that we learned along the way is like you're gonna probably shoot a way more than you're ever gonna use, and just to like be able to cut your darlings in a way and not get too attached to scenes that you love or a character that you might have spent a lot of time with. Like in the end, we ended up shooting a whole other school with like 3 other characters that didn't make it into the film just because it wasn't concise, and maybe we'll use it at some point, but you know, learning that whole process and not getting like that, I mean, emotionally attached to your subjects and all that is great, but also like for the story's sake and things like that, like, you know, being able to live with the things that you have to cut in the end.
Well said.
It's I think you guys brought up an interesting point, being attached to the people that you're profiling. Was, I guess, maybe Diego and Eduardo, you probably had a more kind of like a more historical, not historical, but kind of focusing more on the history of and traditions of scissor dancing. But for the rest, you guys were really getting into like the emotional core of this whole thing. Was there any at any point where, I think like you said, you were like, I think Carla, you just said you want to include them, but you have to decide what's better for the flow of the film. Was there stuff that you feel like you left out for maybe your personal reasons, for the film's reasons, or for like even the character's reasons? I mean, or not the character, sorry, the person's reasons. Maybe there's stuff that you feel like you got on camera, but maybe oh, I shouldn't share this with the world, because in the end they're still people, you know, and you want to respect them and their and who they are. Maybe they, even though they said it on camera or they did it on camera, maybe it wouldn't represent them the best way. Or was there any stuff like that? We'll start with Mario.
Can we start with someone else?
Yeah. Who wants to go next? Anybody
I
want
have
to
to
go
think
next?
about this.
Whoever raised their hand first.
Well, I can go since I talked about cutting. Yeah, I mean, we like in our film in particular, we went and we spent some time in this neighborhood where there was a lot of other like Venezuelan migrant children, and we ended up filming, like, I think it was a whole 2 days of our 10 days where we were at school. I forgot the name, Eleni, I think, maybe, I don't know if you remember. Anyway, but we ended up not including the characters just because it was like very confusing to be in 2 places, and they said that they were Venezuelan, but then they weren't sure where they were born, and it was like a lot of back and forth. So like for clarity's sake, and like just to be 100% sure that we were being truthful in our storyline, we decided to cut it, and it was painful because it was like we invested time in these people, and they really had an amazing and powerful story, but we wanted to make sure that our film was just accurate in its representation. So that was just a hard decision that we had to make.
Yeah, it was also difficult because we also wanted to show that it's sort of a variety of educational experiences in Colombia, and that school that we had to cut was in a more rural area, and the school didn't have as many resources as the main school that we profiled. So that was also why it was tough for us to exclude, I think. But sometimes just for the storyline and to help the viewer and just kind of grasp, you know, the crux of the documentary, sometimes it's okay to leave some stuff out.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Anybody would like to go next?
I can do it. Or Joe will. He also unmuted. Okay, thanks. I just really thought about this. The thing is, a lot of the things that Jonathan said in the interview, which was very long, it was like 2 hours, hour and a half, and at the end we only used about 20 minutes of that, right? So there was a time I thought I was making a film about crystal meth, because that is the particular drug that is really destroying people's lives in Mexico right now. And I thought that was the subject, but then as we went through it, we realized it was not a film about meth. It was a film about addiction as a whole, because in the end, it doesn't really the particular drugs that you use doesn't really matter. Alcoholics go through very similar things, even if it's a different drug, even if it's a legal drug. So Jonathan did say a lot of things about meth, particularly, and things that I thought were incredibly interesting and worth listening. But we ended up cutting them because it was kind of off the main topic. So that was kind of like, it was like sort of like cutting your darlings, but you have to do it.
Mm-hmm. Maybe we're gonna pause that question, and maybe Ebony, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, well,
Sorry.
no, you're fine. Let's try you while you're still here. We'll go back to the beginning. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the origin of your film, and then talk to us about like pre-production for that film was like.
Cool. Yeah. So the origin for Jamaica y Tamarindo, it's also a thesis film, and it started because I was looking to do something on Afro-Mexicanidad in general, because I had did another short documentary about Black migrants in the San Diego, Tijuana area. And now I wanted to focus more on kind of like the experience of Afro-Mexicans. And I was talking to a friend who was Afro-Mexican, and we were just like eating dinner and talking about food because we both love food. And she said, "Did you know that La Flor de Jamaica was from Africa?" And I said, "I did not know that." And I'm consider myself Blaxican. So my mom is Mexican American, my dad's African American. I grew up in a really Mexican American community, and I grew up eating Flor de Jamaica, drinking agua de Jamaica, and eating the tamarindo candies. And so when she told me that, I was like, and I kind of entered like the internet rabbit hole of looking up history and things like that. And since that point, I knew I wanted to do something on Afro-Mexicanidad, but I went kind of going from like the bigger picture of Afro-Mexicanness to focusing on using Jamaica y Tamarindo as metaphors to talk about Afro heritage in Mexico. So they're both ingredients that are super associated with Mexico, but they're actually both originating from Africa. And that's kind of the story of like Black people in Mexico. No, they have a history in Mexico since centuries ago, and and they've been erased. And so it's kind of the same story of like these two things that have a huge presence in Mexico, but little people know about them. So that's why I kind of used the food as like a metaphor to talk about that. And the pre-production, since it was my thesis project, I feel like a lot of research went into it, especially while I was still studying in school. And I didn't actually start filming until my third semester of school. So my whole first year of school was just researching about the history of Afro-Mexicans, talking to people. A lot of the people who are in my film are my friends. So like the relationship was already built, and it was kind of built up on like connecting on other things that we were doing, like workshops or artist events and things like that have to do with like the Afro movement in Mexico. And so I was really fortunate in that sense that I already had kind of a community that I knew I could go to in order to shoot the film. And that's kind of how the pre-production was. And I chose my personajes, my characters, one, because they're my friends, but also because each character kind of represents a diverse part of Black or Afro-Mexicanidad. So some people are descendants of people who were enslaved in Mexico, and then other people are the daughters of migrants, of African migrants who migrated to Mexico. And I kind of wanted to have that diversity represented. People, there's women, there's queer people. Everybody has different interests too. There's chefs, and the chef was the one who showed us kind of the relationship between Jamaica y Tamarindo in Mexico and in Africa, also because her dad was from Senegal, so she was like a really good meeting point for all of those things. And yeah, that's how I kind of got into it and how I met my characters. They're my friends.
Awesome. Thank you for hanging in there and keeping.
Yeah, sorry.
Well, I think we'll go back to Joe Bill because I think he had quite an answer for the last question, right, Joe Bill? No?
Sure. Well, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, we were just talking about if there was stuff that you had to part ways with, like what after you were shooting.
Yeah, I guess my example probably isn't the best example for this question, because the reason that I ended up not including someone in the film was because a very crucial scene that I thought I recorded, I didn't. I just like didn't press record. You know, it's just like tragedy. And you know, it's fine. I'm over it. But they were, you know, this person was an amazing, like, you know, when I met him, he was like very, so, you know, like I said earlier, I lived at the migrant shelter for a year, or for a month, not a year. You know, he was like very elusive, like wasn't really like down to be on camera, but then finally just kind of like really approached me and wanted me to sort of film certain things with him, which was cool. And anyways, I ended up getting really immersed in his story, and I thought that he was going to be one of the central people in the film eventually. But what ended up happening, just to wrap it all up, was there was one scene in which it's kind of like the culmination of what was happening to him at the time, which was that he had been living at this shelter for a long time, and he was looking for his sister in the U.S. to send him some money, and she said no. And I recorded that conversation in which she said no, that she didn't have enough money to give him so that he could do it. And kind of without that scene, I just am not, I guess, not a good enough storyteller to have told the film without that scene. And so I ended up having to just not include him or his story in the film, which was sad. But I thought that it was at the time the right decision, just because for time, I mean, you know how to go, time limits, etc. But yeah, I mean, just to go back to the point that Mario said earlier about, like, you know, becoming attached to people and invested in them, and just like people, you know, relationships that you have with people. He's someone that, you know, I still keep in touch with today. And actually just recently, you know, he's living in the US. So yeah, still keep in touch with him. And I'm totally pro emotional attachment.
Thank you. So we're running low on time, but I have a quick question for all of you guys. And this one is gonna be hypothetical, but and then you guys don't have to answer these together if you guys are co-directors. This one just is your own personal take on it. But let's say maybe someone that is a benefactor, a very generous benefactor, is looking for a filmmaker, is there to fund the film. Is there a certain topic of subject that you would want to tackle? No, money's not a challenge. You don't have to worry about that. It can be anything. So we'll start with we'll start with Carla and then go down the line.
Wow. I mean, I think if I had more time to like make a real proposal, but I feel like I would still want to go back and you know, there's like still an ongoing humanitarian crisis in Venezuela, and I feel like there are a million stories to tell there. So I would definitely, I'm not sure the specifics of what it'd be, but I definitely want to do another documentary on that crisis.
Thank you.
Yeah,
How about
I
you?
would love to go
Oh,
back.
sorry, go ahead. You go, Lenny.
Oh, yeah. I would love to go back with Carla to visit Maiker, and I know with COVID, there's been a lot of changes to how education is occurring, and I think you know, the folks who we profiled, they, you know, they might not have steady internet access, and they're trying to just find the best ways to make sure that their kids get an education. So my first thought would be, yeah, let's go back and see how they're doing, especially amid the pandemic.
Awesome, thank you. How about you, Diego?
Well, I've been interested in this Peruvian photographer called Martin Chambi, which was a photographer from Cusco a long time ago, like in the 1930s, 40s. He photographed indigenous people in a different way than they were usually. He photographed them to make them look beautiful. And I have never seen like a good documentary about him, and I always wanted to investigate on his life and follow all the steps he went through to discovering his art. You know.
Okay, cool, awesome. How about you, Jabel?
I've always wanted to make a film about Selena, and so don't take my ideas. Stays here, copyright. That's all I'll say.
Thank you. How about you, Mario?
Well, I think I'd like to follow on with the subject of addiction. I recently, sadly, there was a news story that really that was really shocking to me and to pretty much everyone in Mexico. This year, that there was a mass shooting inside of a rehab clinic. About 26 people got killed, I think, and maybe you heard of it, Juan. It was in Irapuato, which is close to where we come from in the state of Guanajuato. And that was really shocking to me. And I think it's part of well, did you see that not every rehab clinic in Mexico is actually a rehab clinic? It's just a house in which men get locked up, and there are no doctors, there are no psychologists or anything. They just receive a sort of punishment for being addicts, and people expect them to come out clean, right? So it's a really difficult problem, and I think we have a very complicated infrastructure or environment built around drug trafficking and drug consumption, and I think that is really destroying our communities. Like I said before, I think it's something that is really, it's just heartbreaking to me. It's heartbreaking to me to see that young people are going through this, and young people are really losing their lives to this. And I think I'd love to explore that. I mean, if I had the money to do it, but then again, we don't need that much money to make a documentary. So, like I said, there's no excuse.
Awesome, thank you. How about you, Eduardo?
I don't know really, but I love the jungle of Peru. So there are a lot of myths and legends there that we can take, and I think it will be my next film. I don't know the topic, but I'm very interested in that.
Awesome, thank you. We'd love to see that. And then how about you, Ebony?
I don't know. There's too many things. Well, I'm interested in two things. One of kind of like expanding on the relationship that film has with like the Afro diaspora, that food has with the Afro diaspora. But the other topic that I'm also really interested in is kind of like the history of Black and Mexican and Latinidad, kind of like in the connection between the U.S. and Mexico in this like history. For example, like California, LA was founded by majority Afro mestizos, and the last governor of California before it became part of the U.S. was Afro Mexicano. And so something that has to do with that, kind of like the relationship between the U.S. and Mexico and Afro Mexicanidad.
Awesome, thank you so much. Thank you all so much for submitting your films to the film festival. We're so happy to have you guys, and I hope all these projects come to life, and then we can get them here again. And hopefully next time we can interact in person versus virtually. Again, anybody who's watching, the best thing that could happen, the best way you can help out a filmmaker is by sharing their film, going to the website, sharing their media, their social media. So if you enjoy these films, please push their films, get their names out there, and help them succeed even more than they already have. Well, thank you so much for joining us, everybody, and we hope you have a great night. And again, I hope to see you guys in person in the near future.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. It's been a
Bye.
pleasure.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
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 Thank you.